先生可愛いし。
そうだ、ちょっと手伝ってくれる？
いつよ、なんすか？先生、ちょっと。
Subtle. Okay, never mind. Fuck! So, as you can see, I'm a bit of a sentimental fuck. Initially, I didn't actually plan to do this particular episode today. I was going to do a completely separate project, but when I was doing some preliminary research on Asami Jo, I found that today's her birthday, and she's actually turning 45 today. So I figured, what other better opportunity am I going to get? I'm never going to get a chance to do this again, planning-wise and everything. So, Asami Jo, all I have to say to you is... Happy Now, Asami Jo's story is basically one as old as time at this point. Someone who had their hands in quite a few different facets of the entertainment industry, attempting to break the glass ceiling and become the next big mega sensational star, only to fall just very, very short of doing so and ended up fading into obscurity. Now, with Asami Jo's case, it is a self-induced obscurity though, with only whispers and rumors at this point as to where the hell she is. So, let's dive in. Asami Jo was born on September 15, 1975 as Ayuko Kokuritsu in Tokyo, Japan. Like many actresses in the AV genre, they all go by different stage names. Asami Jo is no exception. For this video and the sake of simplicity, I'll be referring to her as Asami Jo as it is the most popular name she is known by. Similar to Rika Nanase, a lot isn't known about her earlier upbringings, however, to my surprise, and digging around a lot, and I mean a lot, of untranslated, deleted forums in the Wayback Machine. I stumbled on a fan forum that has since been shut down, but actually details some more personal information about Asami Jo that helps to paint a better picture of her, literally, as some of the images I'll be showing I can only find on these dead forums. For example, it turns out Asami Jo's two favorite hobbies were calligraphy and playing video games, specifically fighting games, with her favorite being Virtual Fighter at the time. Interestingly enough, these two hobbies would sort of play a role in rumors of her whereabouts post-acting that we'll discuss a bit later on. So, quick side note, Google Translate is a great tool, and especially for making videos like this where a lot of the information is going to be on like obscure Japanese websites and various things like that. It is, at the same time, and kind of on the flip side of that token, a hilariously terrible translator. It's laughably bad. And the thing about that, essentially what I mean with that is that, for example, when I was researching Asami Jo, I would use like the Wayback Machine as an example. And when I would utilize her name, a lot of the times using Google Translate, different names will pop up. Everything from Asami Shiro and the even more hilarious Asami Castle would pop up. Now, what's funny is they were still talking about Asami Jo, but with the way that Google Translate works and with the different mannerisms in the way the Japanese language is spoke, there's certain ways that you can do things where it will pop up like that. And me, even being very ignorant to the language itself, even hand translating it, I was still having some problems like that. So when I was doing the translation, I had to triple check a lot of these different things just to make sure that the stuff I was reading was actually accurate, and not talking about some castle in fucking Osaka or something like that. Asami Jo started off her career in the entertainment industry as a model in gravure magazines. They're basically models in Japan, so think like fast cars and hot girls standing next to those fast car type magazines, and you basically get the gist. Her debut was August 24th, 1995 in a magazine entitled Shola. One of the things that stuck out for her and became synonymous to her career would be that of her skin color. The complexion was that of a Caucasian person, and it helped her stand out and become very popular among the Japanese audiences. She would go on to star in various ads and commercials for Menard Cosmetics as well as Asahi Beverage. At this time, she was going under her first stage names Ayuko Kunitachi. Asami Jo's first major break would occur when she made a guest appearance on the late-night variety show entitled Gilgamesh Night. From what I've seen, Gilgamesh Night seems like the Japanese equivalent to Saturday Night Live, albeit a bit more risque. Asami Jo is fondly remembered for a sketch of of her only wearing an apron with no bottoms on. The bit went over so well on the show that she would be invited back multiple times and become a co-host a few years later, utilizing the nickname Chummy, where she would remain a part of the show till its eventual cancellation in 1998. So there is one thing to keep in mind, is that at the time when Asami Jo had starred in the Gilgamesh Night series, she hadn't actually made her first AV yet, and you gotta think, this was 2 months after she had started her modeling career, so she was already starting to make waves in the entertainment industry. However, before the ending of her second month, Asami Jo would end up starring in her first AV film. Before jumping into her AV career, there was some information that states in 1996, Asami Jo may have been a special guest announcer for a year-end special professional wrestling tournament. I initially thought she hosted a year-end special for All Japan Pro Wrestling, which, although footage is hard to find, still exists to this day. It wasn't until later that I realized it was an All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling event. This footage is even harder to find and may not exist at all. As coming through the VHS and DVD releases, the closest date is December 8th, 1996. While this supposed event took place on December 22nd, 1996, and was known as the AJW Zenjo Year-End Special 1996 Big Thanksgiving. I figured I would mention this here as it's not 100% confirmed, but given what we've seen and what we will discover is Asami Jo had her hands in many different industries with various people and passions. So I feel it's pretty likely that Asami Jo was at least present for this event.
ちょっとだけだよ。
Asami Jo would begin her AV career October 20th, 1995, starring in the AV entitled A Bearskin Genu. This was only a little more than 2 months after her initial start as a Greville model. During her first and second AVs, she is known as Ayuko Kunitachi on film, however there's also a disclaimer in the movie that her name was now Asami Jo. There is a book that I am looking for a translation for, and it's from Ijima Ai, and the book's called Platonic Sex. It basically chronicles her entire life, but the main reason I want to find it is it actually divulges a lot of what happens during the creative process of AVs. The reason I'm bringing this up is there is a section in it that goes over how long it takes from the time an AV is made to the time it would hit store shelves. My guess is during the process of making her first 2 AVs, she changed her new stage name Asami Jo, and to avoid confusion to the customers, they added in this little disclaimer. It's unknown as to how or why Asami Jo became involved in the AV world, but she would go on to star in 11 hardcore AVs. All the AVs Asami Jo starred in were all under the Alice Japan Pornography Company, while at this time still appearing as a regular on the Gilgamesh Night show. Her final AV entitled Almost Broken would be released August 9th, 1996. Subsequent re-releases would follow on Alice Japan compilation discs in the year 2000 and 2006. One thing to note, with a lot of Japanese pornography is that unlike here in the West where we have access to 100% full-on nudity, Japan does not. In Japan, on video, sexual intercourse can be shown as long as the genital region of both individuals is blocked out. Pin-ups or pictures, as long as they aren't of a sexual action, are allowed to be full nude. Japan has a very strange censorship policy, if I can be completely honest. I won't be going into all that today, though, as Crunchyroll actually did a really good video about the law and censorship in Japan, which I'll link below in the description if you want to check that out. But in the future, I will definitely state whether or not the porn star or AVI or whoever it is I'm talking about does have censored or uncensored work for informational purposes. And yes, in case you were wondering, Asami Jo didn't do any uncensored work in the AV industry. At this point in her career, Asami Jo was beginning to branch out. While still being a regular cast member on Gilgamesh Night, she started experimenting in various B and pink films, hoping to branch out into other genres while still working in AV. Most notably was her work in the live-action adaptation of the hentai series La Blue Girl in La Blue Girl Live 2 Live Birth of the Demon Child and La Blue Girl Live 3 Lady Ninja. She also starred in the Lady Ninja Reflection of Darkness movie while still working on AV. After leaving the AV industry in August of 1996, she would continue working on the Gilgamesh Night show, where she would succeed former co-host Tomeo Sato and have a full-time position on the show. While working on this show, she would also find minor success on a few other television programs, like a show entitled Hen and Chiyoyo Yo 2. She would also star in another B-movie entitled Nippon Bicycle Race Academy, Its Youth. Complete fame still eluded her though, as 2 years in the entertainment industry she had made great strides, yet still hadn't crashed through the glass ceiling. However, thanks to the help of a certain character being very over with Japanese audiences, Asami Jo's mega break was about to crash through.
Mega Ranger!
Following the success of Gekiso Sentai Car Ranger, series producer Shigenori Takatara was brought back on as a producer to the follow-up season of Super Sentai entitled Denji Sentai Mega Ranger. The overall tone of this season was a bit more serious than the previous one, with the parody elements being completely taken out of the equation. In all honesty, I think it's a great season. In fact, it actually reminds me a lot in tone of the early Shimigami Tensei or early Persona games for that matter. And I wouldn't be that surprised if I found out later on that either one of the teams were inspired by the other. Wanting to capitalize on the successful casting quirk of Rika Nanase in the previous season, Asami Jo was hired on to play the villainous Shiborena. However, in this season, they played her more as a straight villain, dropping the sex appeal and making her fall more in line with the other villains of the series. Despite her portrayal going over well, it didn't quite live up to the success of Rika Nanase prior. She is great in the role, however the casting quirk this time around fell kinda short. With Rika Nanase, it kind of made sense with the way they were portraying her as a character, ramping up the sex appeal and promiscuity. With Asami Jo, they subdued her performance a lot, making her almost blend into the background at times. So personally, I feel like the creative team on Mega Ranger honestly thought that because Rika Nanase went over so well in Car Ranger, that it was only because she was an AV star. It didn't have anything to do with the way the character was written or how they wrote the character around her being an AV star, all that stuff. And I think that that is honestly the biggest downfall with Asami Jo's character. And I'll just come right out and say it. I don't think Shiborena needed to be an AV idol. I gotta stress, I think Asami Jo is a better actress than Rika Nanase overall, and could have even had a more memorable performance this time around had they had not tried to subdue her so much in this season. I would chalk this up to the creative team and direction's fault more than anything, which is a shame because Asami Jo had done some dramatic work and even played in Pink B films with a similar tone to Mega Ranger. If they would have just let her cut loose, I feel it would be better overall. Put a gun to my head and make me choose one or the other? See, that's tough because both performances are very different from each other, but if I had to pick one, honestly, I would go with Rika Nanase. And the main reason why is because her performance matched up like completely with the entire season. Whereas Shiborena, it almost felt like oftentimes she was there just because they wanted to hire an AV idol for that season. Still, overall, you wouldn't be wrong if you prefer Asami Jo. As the few episodes where they really let her shine, she is a menacing force throughout those episodes that I genuinely wish they would have kept throughout the whole season. If I had to choose two episodes that don't spoil too much of the plot but showcase her menacing reach and what they could have done with the season, I'd have to recommend episode 4, Let's Trash It, Shiborena's Trap, and episode 11, Allure of the Red Rose, the latter of which being the one I'd recommend overall. So I'm not bullshitting right now, and I didn't plan this at all, because I wrote the script after I bought this cake, if I'm being completely honest with you, but I ended up buying fucking rose cake. I don't know, man. Life sometimes, right? Similar to Rika Nanase, Shiborena too was cut from the North American release of Power Rangers in Space. The reasons stated online are the same as Rika Nanase, that her outfit was too revealing, and again, I'll stick to my guns that I truly believe someone from the creative team got wind of her AV career prior and decided to cut out any potential controversy. She was replaced with Astronema, who, fun enough, goes through a similar arc turn to Zonette's character in Car Ranger. This time, the creative team behind Power Rangers at least attempted to stick to their word and tone down the sex appeal of the Astronema character, unlike Divatox the season prior.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Following her role in Mega Ranger, she would star in one more film under the name Asami Jo. It was a film entitled Break Heat, and as of this recording was technically the last film starring her to have a theatrical release. The film is extremely rare in the West, and I don't believe it ever actually received any English translations. Funny enough, while doing research on the film, one of the leading actors was named Shawn Michaels. Yeah, I doubt it. With as many weird coincidences and ties to professional wrestling and fighting in general that Asami Jo has, it really wouldn't have surprised me if the guy actually turned out to be the real Shawn Michaels. Asami Jo's final performance would be returning to Super Sentai in the movie Mega Ranger vs. Gingamon. She would play the sister of Shiborena, Hizumina. However, she would no longer be referred to as Asami Jo, rather the name Yumi Kayama. And why this is unknown, yet like Rika Nanase, she would fade from the entertainment industry and never do any more acting work after the completion of this film. Now, here are things get a little bit interesting with Asami Jo, because post-entertainment industry, she has this almost mythical aura about her, and the main reason why is she still has a bit of a following into the future. or at least had a following on these old forum sites, because on the old forum sites, they actually chronicle a whole bunch of rumors and speculations as to what happened to Asami Jo post-entertainment industry. Now, none of these are 100% confirmed, nor are they going to blow your mind with in terms of certain speculation, but they are interesting nonetheless. Asami Jo's last public appearance was at the 2000 K1 Grand Prix goodbye ceremony for fighter Andy Hug. The K1 Grand Prix is a martial arts and fighting circuit in Japan that was founded by Kazuyoshi Ishii, a famous martial artist and fighter in his own right. At the time, there was a widespread rumor that Asami Jo was the mistress of Kazuyoshi Ishii, which isn't impossible as they would have met numerous times in the past during her days as a model. Plus, if it's true she was at the AJW 1996 Thanksgiving event, it would show Asami Jo did have a vested interest in fighting sports. Okay, it's a bit of a stretch, but hey, she did love Virtua Fighter. Kazuyoshi Ishii is an interesting guy in his own right and will undoubtedly get his own video in the future. In 2004, him and two other conspirators were arrested for tax evasion of 300 million yen. One was an accountant, the other a quote-unquote business associate that wasn't named. This could have been Asami Jo, but there isn't any proof it was her, nor do there exist any publications that state it was so. One of the other major rumors regarding Asami Jo's whereabouts was from a 2001 issue of Top Speed, where an article stated that Asami Jo went on to become a stage performer. This is possible, however the 2001 issue of Top Speed is not available online, nor is there confirmation as to what theater group or anything along those lines. Possibly the most wholesome outcome, however, and my favorite by far, is that after leaving the entertainment industry, Asami Jo went back home to work in her family's flower business, and also teach calligraphy on the side, as this was one of her favorite hobbies. In truth, there is no evidence to support this being the fate of Asami Jo, and it doesn't really fit her MO. However, entertainers are fascinating creatures. You always see multiple sides with the various characters they portray, yet you only seldomly ever really see what this person is actually like. Hey, much like the rest of humanity, we all live very dynamic and weird lives. In the end, Asami Jo, to me, never really seemed like the porn type. We've covered a few AV stars, and without running the risk of sounding repetitive in the future, because let's face it, there is a metric shit ton more porn stars in the world left to cover. She seemed different to whom we've looked at so far. With Mariko Kawana and even Rika Nanase, yeah, I definitely see them being AV idols. Asami Jo, on the other hand, I feel was never really satisfied with that lifestyle. Her demeanor was different, and she carried the weight of an individual with ambition and drive, willing to do what was necessary to further her goals, whatever they were. It being a means to an end rather than a lifelong profession. Much like other up-and-coming celebrities, though, the myth and legend of the struggling artist doing what they can to survive and make it to the spotlight will continue to be told. And unfortunately, their stories are also often lost to time. At least on this day, Asami Jo's will not be forgotten. And on that note, happy 45th birthday, Asami Jo. Thank you guys so much for watching. I want to give a quick shout out to Wrestling Bios this week. Once again, he came through and helped me out tremendously when it came to helping me track down some very hard to find professional wrestling tape. Once again, he helped me out tremendously, and I really can't thank him enough. If you're not subscribed to Wrestling Bios, go do that right now. Seriously, it's some of the best content you're going to find out there, especially if you're into professional wrestling like I am. It is actually Asami Jo's birthday, or at least at the time of me recording this, it's technically in America the day before her birthday, but it's already her birthday in Japan. So Asami Jo, if for some fucking random reason you are watching this, happy birthday. So the next and final member of this AV trilogy of Super Sentai people what to do is from a series called Go Angor, and I will be completely honest with you, it's probably going to be a couple videos before I can get to that. I may do another AV idol in between me doing her, no pun intended. The thing with Go Angor is it is kind of painful to sit through, I'm not gonna lie, and me being a huge fan of Super Sentai that is saying a lot, I'm gonna sit through it, and then once I finish that, I'll put that video out. Other than that, thank you guys so much for the support, I genuinely appreciate it. Got some more stuff down the pipeline. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good jazz, and make sure to keep things light and rebellious, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do genuinely appreciate that.